After playing the game for 80 hours, I want to give you guys the 5 most important things and tips you're going to need to know before you play Lords of the Fallen, or if you started playing, these are going to be crucial so you can make your life a little bit easier in Axiom or Umbral. At number 1, guys, we're going to be talking about the 2-world mechanics. The best way I can explain this, guys, think of multi-universe. Basically, guys, when you're playing the game, you're going to be playing in one world, which is going to be Axiom, the living world where everybody lives. And there's another world that's layered on top of this world called Umbral, which is the dead world. This is where pretty much all the dead enemies are at, right? So the cool thing about this game is that it allows you to transfer from one place to another place. So if you are in the living world, you're going to have the ability to go into the dead world. Now, the dead world comes with a bit of a caveat, and it's that high risk, high reward, because the longer you survive there, the more enemies that are going to come your way, and it gets to the point that you will be getting officially overwhelmed sometimes, so you kind of want to make sure you transition at the right timing. In addition to that, there are a lot of hidden stuff in the world that you could only access by visiting Umbral, which is the dead world. Now, Axiom is the living world, which is where you're going to start your adventure, and unfortunately, you cannot complete the entire game just by staying in the living world. You're going to have to transition from both worlds to another. Now, the cool thing is that the game will give you a Umbral lamp, or the lamp, which you're going to be using to transition from one world to another world. And that is one of the most important things and one of the most unique things about the game. It gives you the ability to play the game like we've never seen other games being played before, having 2 worlds layered on top of each other and having secret items in both different worlds and different enemies. So if you're picking up the game, if you learn these 2 mechanics and learn to use them wisely, you will be able to survive longer and discover really powerful weapons, which will have you completely covered here on the channel. Speaking of coverage, guys, we have more Lords of the Fallen coverage on our second channel, link are down below, so make sure you guys check that out whenever you guys get a chance. Now let's talk about what makes all Souls games amazing, and that is the combat mechanics. It's extremely important that you understand the combat mechanics because you want to know what combat mechanics this game is like. Is it more like Liza P? Is it more like Dark Souls? And this game actually gets inspiration from a lot of classical mechanics, which include dodging, blocking, and parrying. Now, parrying is not extremely important in this game in the sense that it's actually a little bit easy to parry, but what is very predominant in this game is the dodging and rolling, which gives you a nice ability of being able to play the game in different aspects. So if you want to parry the majority of the time, you're able to do that. And if you want to take the more dodge approach, you could do that as well. And if you want to make sure that you're kind of get off of a sticky situation, you're able to block as well. Now, one of the cool aspects about the game is the rally system. And if you guys played Liza P, you're going to be familiar with this system. Or if you played Sekiro, you're also going to be familiar with this system. What this does, guys, it allows you to restore your health after you guys get hit or blocked. So when you guys block, you're going to notice that on your health bar, it's going to tick off the health bar, but it's not going to remove it completely. It's going to get a little bit grayed out. The beautiful thing about this system is that if you actually are able to land a hit on that enemy, your health will be restored after that hit is applied. Now, if you do get hit, you will lose that chunk of health that was grayed out within your health bar. This makes it a very fun mechanic because you're able to get into these sticky situations where you can kind of block, get your health reduced, but be able to get your health back and make that nice comeback. I think these are very good mechanics applied to Souls games, and I think as more Soul games come out, we're going to see this mechanic coming out as well. Now, there is also a very unique ability called Soul Flay, which allows players to rip out an enemy's soul, which are going to be crucial for making sure that you level up. Of course, we'll have a fast leveling guide here on the channel, but this Soul Flay mechanic is extremely important because you're going to want to make sure you're doing this not only to the the enemy, but you're also doing this to bosses. Now, there is a caveat to this mechanic because what this does, it's going to work very similar as the ability that you have with the rally mechanic, because you'll be able to hit the enemy really easily and you will see a chunk of their health be taken out. But if that enemy, after you do that, hits you, they will recover the health. So you're going to make sure you manage this correctly to your advantage and not to the advantage of the enemy. All right, you mages out there, don't worry, guys. I got you completely covered because I am a mage myself, and I love magic when I play soul games. So I'm going to tell you guys exactly what you could expect if you are a mage or you want to dive in a little bit into the magic and the elements. Whether you are a mage or not, elements are going to be a very crucial part of the game, and there are a total of 3 different element types found in the game. You have Radiance, which is kind of your holy light. You have Infernal, which involves fire, and you have Umbral, which involves darkness. Now, Radiance specifically is going to focus on buffs and healings. So for you guys who are focused on those strength builds, you're going to be tapping into this Radiance very, very much. Now, Inferno is more of an offensive ability or offensive element, which you're going to want to make sure you're using it very properly and keeping your distance when you're doing this. I believe Inferno is going to be super OP as you progress through the game, but it's one of those offensive abilities or elements that you're going to need to be leveled up to make sure you take full advantage of. Another really powerful ability here is the Umbral ability, which is going to be considered the dark magic. And this is extremely powerful. The only downside to this particular magic is that it's a very slow casting magic. Now, that kind of compensates it by being very powerful. So you're going to want to make sure you pick your poison when using it. Now, one important thing about the game, guys, is that some enemies will be resistant to these elements. So you're going to want to make sure you pay constant attention to if you're doing damage, but that damage is not being applied. Now, we have a video going over on Gamer Fusion on our second channel where we cover on how you could know if you're doing the right proper damage. So make sure you stop by there and check it out. So in order for you guys to be a successful mage and use these elements properly, you're going to want to make sure you strategize accordingly on the enemies you're fighting to make sure you have the full control on what's doing damage and what's not doing damage. All right, so now that you know the world mechanics, now that you know the combat mechanics, and now that you know the magic and elements are applied, let's talk about classes. Now, when you get into the game, there's going to be a total of 9 classes. Now, if you ordered the deluxe edition, you're going to have an additional class, which is going to start you off with 10 classes. I'm mentioning 9 because I'm pretty sure the majority of people didn't order the deluxe. But if you did order the deluxe, you get access to a class that you're still going to be able to unlock, but you got to unlock it towards the end of the game. Now, if you did order the deluxe, you have already access to this class, which is really good, right? It's going to be like kind of like that OP class that everybody wants to kind of start off with. But if you didn't get the deluxe edition, then you're not going to be able to start off with this. Now, within these classes, guys, there are multiple options to go ahead and use these classes. Now, later in the video, I'm going to tell you which classes I recommend for what. So you guys make sure you guys stay tuned for that. So the classes that we have are really, really cool. You have a very close range class, which is going to be primarily focused for strength build classes. You have an agility focus class. So you're going to be really able and agile to move for this one. And you have a spell casting class, which is going to be primarily focusing in mage. The cool thing about this is that each of these classes will have its own unique abilities and its own unique stats. These classes are going to be carried to different various playstyles. So if you love melee fighting, you're going to be able to do that. If you don't like to be up close and personal, you're going to be given the ability to have a range attack. And if you don't like neither of that, but you want to just bring out rain lightning down on the enemies or rain fire or summon fire, you're going to be able to do that with magic classes as well. So starting classes has a wide variety for you to pick from and different various ways of playstyles to approach the game, which makes it a really fun game. Usually, sometimes when you play soul games, you kind of have dexterity, you have strength, you have mage, and you have other playstyles, but this gives us a wide variety of being able to approach the game in a very different aspect. Now, speaking of starting classes, now let's talk about class recommendations, which is my 5 most important tip, because this is going to kind of drill down and focus down based on your specific playstyle. Now, if you are primarily focused when playing the Souls-like game in strength builds, you are going to want to make sure you pick these characters. There is the Werewolf or the Crusader. Those are the 2 main ones that I would suggest if you are primarily strength when playing Souls-like. These are going to give you a huge variety of getting the ability of starting off with really good stats, but on top of that, they're going to give you the ability of being a strength-focused class that you can build a little bit forward as you progress throughout the game. Now, if you want to try a little bit something different that we don't really see a lot in Souls games, and that is the range to be able to keep your distance and kind of hit your enemies a little bit there, and you want to have that nice ability of being agile, then the ones I would recommend for these guys are going to be the Orient Preacher, which is going to give you the ability of tapping into that radiant spell. You have the Cultist, which is going to primarily be focusing on spell casting, And if you're looking for a more of a build that kind of compensates all these builds together, you're going to want to make sure you pick up the Hollow Knight. This is going to give you that nice balanced build that you're going to be able to not only tap into, pretty much magic, but you'll also be able to tap into agility, and you will also be able to tap into strength. So those are pretty much the recommendations I have for you guys if you guys are trying to pick a specific class that caters to your particular playstyle. These are the classes I would recommend you definitely pick up and should allow you to approach the game and play the game the way you want to play it. Now, we will have more Lords of the Fallen video coverage here on the channel, but for extreme amount of coverage. Now, if you want to get more additional coverage of Lord of the Fallen, make sure you guys check us out on our second channel. Link is down below to our Gamer Fusion channel, where we have more extensive coverage of Lords of the Fallen. I hope you guys are enjoying our content here on the channel. If you are doing the heats favor, guys, drop a comment, drop a like, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and our other channel, where we're going to have you guys covered with everything Lords of the Fallen. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you guys on the next video.